you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Good morning, and welcome to the October the 11th edition of the CRCS, for the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. We would love for you to get in contact with the show, and you can do so by dialing this number, which is 516-453-9921. And if you have the button there, you can press the number 1 button so that you can ask your question or give a short, and I do mean short, VGQ. I'm going to emphasize, please make it short. If you're not going to be short, then don't do it. We are only of a 2-hour window, so please make sure that you be very short with it so that Mr. Fuller can understand your question and answer it. Let's see. You can also, if you are a first-time caller, you call this number and make sure you tell the call screener your name and that you are a first-time caller, and we have something set up for you. You can also Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com, and you can ask your question there. And I'm not saying that it will be read today. Some are, some aren't, whatever the reason is, but you can do that, and then your question will be read at a certain time, and I will inform you of that. You can also join the chat room, and all you have to do that is go to blogtalkradio.com, and then you want to click on where it says shows or programs. Click on the Produce Justice show. And once you click that on, then the icon for the chat room becomes available for you. You click on that, and you are in, the chat room. Now, when you're in there, I noticed that some are sometimes use the chat room to ask a question that they want Mr. Fuller to answer. I'm going to ask you, please, ma'am, please, sir, do not do that. The chat room basically is for chatting on different subjects, Occasionally I will lift something interesting out of the chat room and present it. But for the most part, do not use the chat room to ask a question. That is what the 516-453-99 number is for. So do that, please, ma'am, and please, sir. All the books and the materials or things that will be spoken about can be gotten at producejustice.com. You will hear that all throughout the show, producejustice.com. You will hear words like code. You will even hear the word or the phrase, I don't know. You will hear that, so don't be alarmed by that. You don't have to be scared and asking or intimidated by asking a question. Mr. Fuller will, as best as he can, will answer that question. And I've just been informed that on this coming Thursday, which is the 13th of October, Mr. Fuller will be on the Carl Nelson Show from, I think it's 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. It might be a correction on that. Mr. Fuller, do you know that, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m.?
That's correct, in the morning, not in the evening.
Okay, in the morning from 8 a.m. until 10 a.m., so you may want to do that. You can access that show by coming to producejustice.com. The crew has set up a link so that you can hear the show or hear Mr. Fuller on there, and you can also ask him questions. Okay, with that being done and on out the way, let's do this. Let me present to some and I'm going to say present to some and introduce to others Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. Mr. Fuller, good morning, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
Okay, you're still learning. Okay, we're going to start off today's show with our thoughts and expressions from the mind of Neely Fuller, Jr. Mr. Fuller, what is on your mind this morning?
Well, I just have one thing I'd like to introduce that someone else said and how people think about it, and then we'll get directly into questions because a lot of people may have quite a few questions. And so I'm not making any presentation this morning in that manner. I'm just going to give a quote, and I'll do that from time to time for people to think about, because it's not just about what Neely Fuller says. We're in a world with a lot of people who have a lot of different outlooks on different things, and everything is about thought, speech, and action. That's what people do. People think, people speak, and people act. So here's something that's supposed to be said by Plato, someone who existed somewhere in the range of roughly 400 years before the birth of Jesus, all right, in the Christian religion. And this is a person who is considered to be a philosopher, a great philosopher, Plato, Plato. And he gives his definition of a man. And here it is. Man, a being in search of meaning. Unquote. Man, a being in search of meaning. That's something a person can think about when they start thinking about what a man is. That's one viewpoint. And I'll just leave it at that. What that means, I don't know, except it means what it says. A man, by definition, is a being in search of meaning, according to whom? Plato, whom many people down through the ages have said was a great thinker. That's his definition of a man, a being in search of meaning. So you can think about that. You, meaning everybody who hears it and who has heard what I just said, and you can think about it. And then think about what you think a man is. But Plato says a man is a being, something, in form of a being, B-E-I-N-G, in search of meaning. Now, I'd just like to add this one. Now that I think about it, I've done a little thought about it. And I say, in the textbook, and this quote is in the original textbook, nothing has meaning. And it's not the definition of a man. I'm just giving a remark about meaning. What do you mean by meaning? Plato says it's something a man is in search of. So I have a quote in the textbook for Victims of White Supremacy. In the original 1984 edition, it's talking about meaning, not about man, but about meaning. And I put in there a thought, like this is a thought that Plato gives. I give a thought about meaning itself. What do you mean by meaning? And I put in there, nothing has meaning unless it has meaning, if you get what I mean. That's just something to think about. Nothing has meaning unless it has meaning, if you get what I mean. And And what do I mean by that? Just what it says. But it's just something to think about, like I think what Plato was doing by saying man is a being in search of meaning. So what is meaning? Nothing has meaning unless it has meaning, if you get what I mean. And that's according to Neely Fuller. But what does that mean? This means something to think about. That's all. You're here. What do things mean to you? What is meaning to you? What value is something supposed to mean to you? What do you mean by meaning when you think about it? That's all. Now I'm ready for questions.
All righty. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you very much. Okay, let's do this. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go into Harlem, New York, and we have Anthony. Get ready, Anthony. Let's see if I can cue you in here. And there we go. Okay, Anthony, you're on, Mr. Fuller. Good morning.
Yes, top of the morning to you also. I guess it's maybe a suggestion more than anything. About the time Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. started writing his book, notes for his books, in 1958 there was a book published called Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. He's a Nigerian writer. Since then, that book has been, republished many times. About 15 years ago at the Cape Town Book Fair, a Nigerian publisher published it, but it was a big coffee table book with these fantastic drawings or artist renditions in it. Okay, it's like a coffee table book. Now, that's the preamble. Now, let me give you this suggestion, right? I understand Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. wants his book, available at the lowest possible price. Great, I understand that. Even the fact that he wants to put it in one volume, like the Mark Twain, like you mentioned, the Mark Twain books or whatever have you, like the Library of America books. Now, my suggestion is this. You have that, and perhaps also as a separate thing, you go to like an independent black publisher or whatever have you, and you make a coffee table book and have that as a premium book. It's almost like a fundraising book. So in other words, that book may be, say, as much as, I don't know, $300, whatever it is. And then that money can also augment some other projects that Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., Mr. Fuller, that you might have. You understand? So I'm not saying that you don't continue to work on having the price of the book lowered, as much as you have another book, a bigger book, a coffee table book. And remember, you've been making some other observations or writing other notes that could be included in the coffee table book, which could be sold, again, at a premium for us people who actually appreciate books, just books, you understand? So that's it. That's a suggestion. And so let me leave you with that. Oh, let me give you a quote. I have my own quote. White people want to be right and not righted. White people want to be right and not righted. Black people want to be, black people don't want to be wrong or wronged. Black people don't want to be wrong or wronged. So that's it. And let me let you all have a wonderful day, all right?
All righty. Thank you, Anthony.
All right.
Okay, all righty. Suggestion. Okay. Cleo from Houston. Let me see. Get ready, Cleo. See if I can get you in here. Let's see here. Cleo. Okay, Cleo, you're on, Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Good morning, gentlemen. Long live NFJ and forever live Logic. Good morning. So give my thanks to Mr. Bobby, Moon Pie, Robert, Sharon, CRSC team for your work. Mr. Fuller, you said recently about a black person amassing billions of dollars and yet being nothing more than a prisoner in the system of white supremacy with $1 billion, given the way white supremacy works. Can you please explain why any initiative to improve the plight of black people or non-white people in the system of white supremacy without time, or maybe more, pursuing to replace the system of white supremacy with a system of justice. Keeping on thinking about the activity of economics. Why moves to make a change in those areas of people activity, independent of replacing the system, could be exercises in futility.
Mr. Fuller, did you hear that?
Up.
Yeah, Cleo, you were tremendously broken up in what you were saying. I don't know, there seems to be a bad connection. Let me make this suggestion. If you can't solve the problem right now, call back, and Robert will make sure you get to the front of the call list, because we really couldn't hear that question. You were breaking up terribly. Are you still there?
I'm still there. Can you hear me a little better?
Oh, yeah,
now?
I can. Yeah, we can hear you now. If this is the way that it's going to be, if you start breaking up again, then I'm gonna terminate the phone call, but call back and see if Robert can get you right back in. But yeah, continue, please.
Okay. So my question is, Mr. Fuller recently made a statement that that a black person who has amassed billions of dollars in the system of white supremacy is nothing more than a black person with $1 billion as a prisoner. We've heard a lot of talks about initiatives to improve the state of black America or non-white people through economic means and other areas of people activity, and yet, but without a view towards the importance of replacing the system that makes for the challenges and the problems that non-white people face. Can Mr. Fuller explain why efforts to improve the plight or solve problems in this system without replacing it could be exercised in futility?
Okay, Mr. Fuller.
The effort to improve black people's position in the system of white supremacy, exercise in futility, is that the question?
Wait a minute, let's see if I can get him back in. Is that what you mean, Cleo?
Yes, Mr. Bobby, but sum total, what I mean is trying to improve the plight of black people or non-white people in the system of white supremacy without replacing it by only engaging in economic changes and things of that, or other political changes in any of those areas of people activity without replacing it or exercise. Why can he explain why that could be exercises in futility?
It could be, but every black person should be trying to dismantle the system of white supremacy and put it in simple language. Also, that's the ultimate goal. If you can do it in 2 hours or 200 years or whenever you can do it, you do your maximum. Once you become aware of the existence of the system of white supremacy, the assignment is, according to compensatory counter-racist logic, is to replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. Nothing short of that. So whatever you do that leads to that end, try to do the best you can to do just that. And you don't measure it by you don't measure success except by that. And you might do thousands of things or just a dozen things or just one or two things. But that should be your reason for existence according to counter-racist logic, according to what I call the code, counter-racist code. Every black person, every non-white person, every person, including white people, should be spending maximum time trying to do just that as a quote-unquote lifetime goal. That's the assignment in capital letters. That's how it's expressed in the code book itself that I have written. The assignment. What do you mean by the assignment? The assignment that you have when you come into the world. You're in the system of white supremacy. The system of white supremacy is an evil system. You're supposed to be getting rid of evil. So you start with the greatest evil. And according to compensatory counter-racist logic, the greatest evil on planet Earth in 2022 is the system of white supremacy. And from that evil flows all the other evils. That's the assumption. Now, some people will agree with that, others won't. But that's it. And you do whatever it takes to, every day, the mechanics of bringing this about, whether you're talking about money or any kind of connections you have or any philosophy that you have or religion that you're trying to embrace, is supposed to be crafted with that in mind. Whether you complete your assignment or not. That's the assignment. That's the priority assignment. Now, there are those who will agree with that, those who will not agree with it. But if you agree with it, it's up to you as a person on the planet, then you go with that. My assignment, my reason for breathing is to replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. And that's all I'm supposed to be doing while I'm on the planet. Now, you can either embrace that philosophy or not. It's up to you. Up to the individual person.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. Thank you, Cleo. Excuse me, from Houston. Thank you very much. Let's see here, Mr. Fuller. Coffee table book, huh? This comes from, let's see, Black Speak. Here's a quote, VGQ. He says, in Austin, Texas, there was a group of armed black men marching through the streets protesting undocumented immigrants coming to the U.S. They are mainly misinformed about immigration because immigrants are coming to the U.S. to work on jobs blacks and others refuse to do for wages being paid to immigrants. My question to you, Mr. Fuller, is why do armed blacks believe they have any power to regulate immigrants coming into the U.S.?
Well, logically speaking, it's because black people, apparently, who are doing this, not all black people are doing this, but the black people who are doing it don't understand white supremacy. But you can ask them, that's the codified procedure. That's what I would do. I'm just surmising now that they don't understand white supremacy. But they can, the suggestion, according to the code, if I thought about why, and I'm thinking about it now, the people who are called immigrants are allowed, and they are allowed, to go anywhere. And if there are people of color, I will ask the white supremacists. They are the ones who got the answer. They are in the supreme position. Black people don't need to go out and, according to the code, and do anything except to go to the nearest white person they see and say, why is it why is this being allowed? If you object to it, I don't object to it because I know that what do I look like as a prisoner of war and as a refugee and as an immigrant and as a victim of white supremacy, telling white people or black people anything, other black people, about where they can go. I'm not in position to. I have to ask the white supremacists about everything, including that. Why is this? Why is that? All questions should be directed about every circumstance to the white supremacists. That's what being supreme means. You don't ask other black people. You don't even ask them, why are you coming here? Or why are you going there? You can ask the white supremacists because they are orchestrating where everybody goes who has color in his or her skin. The white supremacists, you have to understand white supremacy. Then you don't get frustrated at least. Because you say this is happening because the white supremacists want it to happen. Something they don't want to happen, it ain't happening. They know how to stop it. Lots of black people have said to me, well, these people coming across the border, we need to stop it. We? Who is we? Well, we black people, they're going to take our jobs and they're going to do this. They're not going to do nothing that the white supremacists don't assign them to do. The white supremacists can march every one of them right into the ocean right now, right this minute, if they want to. So you got any questions, ask Master. If I got any questions like that, that's what I do. I don't ask any black person nothing. They ain't in charge of nothing. The white supremacists are in charge of everything that black people do. Non-white people, black, brown, red, yellow. They are in charge. Other than the supreme being, what we call the Creator. And the white supremacists don't have that much muscle. So you can ask your Creator if you've got a religion. You can do it through your religion. Why are they coming here? Why are they doing this? Why are they allowed? Ask your Creator. If you believe that you have one and that you can correspond with that one, and whatever the Creator, your Creator, whomever you are, however your Creator answers, you can consider that as being the answer. But if you ask a being, a person, here on this planet, the best person to ask is somebody white. That's number one. Just pick out somebody white and say, why are the refugees coming here? Why are you allowing this? And see what they say. I hope that answers the question.
Okay.
Pick somebody white. Don't ask a black person nothing about that, including poor. I don't know. If I give you an answer, I have to go to some white people first and then give you an answer. Why are they allowed? And the white supremacists will tell you, I think, because I allow them. Black person, I allow you black persons on this planet to breathe, or you ain't got no breath. I'm supreme over all of you people of color. I don't care what you're doing. If you're doing it, and other black people complain about you doing it, tell those other black people, come see me. That's all you got to do. I'm in charge of all of y'all.
Okay. You are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we are so pleased that you are. Now, to be a participant or to get in contact with today's show, call this number, 516-453-9921. Press the number 1 button if you have a question or comment, and you will be on hold until you are recognized, and then you can ask your question. If you are a first-time caller, please be sure to give the call screener your name, and a special program has been set up so that your call, you will be heard. In fact, they will inform me that you are a first-time caller, so we can expedite you right there and get your question answered. You can also Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com, and I will get that and let you know that I received it. And then at a certain date and time in the future, that Gmail will be read. You can also join the chat room by going to blogtalkradio.com. You want to make sure that you click on shows or programs. Once you click that on the Produce Justice show, will come up. You click that, and then the chat room icon is available for you to go in, and you can go in. And that comment from the brother from Houston, from Houston, Cleo, I believe, has been a topic on the chat. So you might want to go in there and check that out. Coffee table talk, huh? Or coffee table book. Okay. All righty. Anyway, that's on there. Yes. On this coming Thursday from 8 a.m. until 10 a.m., Mr. Fuller will be on the Carl Nelson Show. So make sure that you can listen to the show, and ProduceJustice.com has set up a link so that you can hear the entire show. All you have to do is go to ProduceJustice.com, and there it is, Neely Fuller on the Carl Nelson Show, and you can get on it and you can listen to the whole show and ask your questions. All right. Okay, let's see who's next in line here. Let's see, Mr. Fuller, who's next here? Okay, Abracadabra is up. Says this: the other slaves of white supremacy, black people, are interfering in my and scheming behind my back to try to get me off code, since you always speak of code, as they believe that I am astray to believe that such a thing, that such a system, white supremacy, exists. However, I'm seeing everything unravel in front of my eyes on a daily basis. I find that tossing my pearls to other black people is a complete waste of time. My question to you, Mr. Fuller, is this: how can I maintain my sanity? The more I try to avoid other black people, the more attention they seem to give me.
Well, you can ask them, why are they giving you the attention? You can start with that, according to the code. So you always have questions of why people do whatever they do, and the people who you have questions for are the people who are doing whatever they do. If a person is riding a bicycle, you ask that person who's riding a bicycle, why are you riding a bicycle? It's just as simple as that. That's the codified or compensatory procedure. That's what the textbook for victims of white supremacy is all about. Questions. Why? All problems are solved. And keep remembering this. All problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. And so, whom do you ask questions of? The person who is doing whatever that person is doing. If you want to know why they are doing it, ask them why they are doing it. Whether it's riding a bicycle or coming across the border or anything else. if they say, well, why are you talking, if they ask you a question, why you keep talking about racism to me? And you give them your answer. And if they say, for example, I don't want to talk to you about racism, then you say, do you want to talk to me? That's your next logical question. And when they answer, then you say, if they say yes, then you say, what do you want me to talk to you about? And then wait for the answer. Not your answer. That's why you're asking the question. You want their answer. And don't argue about the answers that you get. Just keep asking questions. That's the codified procedure. I mean, long after Neely Fuller is gone. See, that's why I say it's a united independent system. It makes you powerful. Codification is not about Neely Fuller. It's about logic. All you got to do is follow logic. Logic came with the universe. And why is Neely Fuller saying that? That's what Neely Fuller does. I mean, who's Neely Fuller's leader other than logic? So you can follow what Neely Fuller follows. It's available to everybody. And what is logic? Cause and effect, questions and answers. That's all it is. If you say, well, how do you find out what cause and effect is? By asking questions and getting answers from people who know the answers and people who don't know the answers. That's an answer. So if they speak the truth, they'll just simply say, I don't know, which is the answer to most questions. Then there's a codified suggestion. Once you find out you don't know, then your next, the logical procedure, when you don't know something that you need to know, is to find out what you need to know. And how do you find out what you need to know? Asking questions and getting answers to the questions that you ask. It's a very simple procedure, but we somehow seem to keep missing it. And the reason why that is, because I've asked that question, why do people missing? Keep missing this? These questions and answers. And, about racism. Because they're not asking the questions that I'm asking. That's all. The laws of the universe say it's something about the way the universe is structured and the way people in the universe are structured. Something somehow about the way we are made. When you ask a question somewhere from out there, wherever that is, Oz, the other side of the universe, heaven, whatever you want to call it, when you ask a question, the answer to the question starts gravitating toward you. The answer to that question starts coming toward you. Why? Because you're like a magnet once you ask a question. You start drawing that answer to you. That's how inventors come into being. They ask questions. And what they get, maybe, is an answer that they don't understand. So they ask another question, and another question, and another question. And little by somehow, you might say it's magic, but it's not magic, it's logic. The answer starts coming to that person who is trying to invent that airplane that nobody says can be done. Or if something like that could be done, people would have been born with wings. They ain't born with no wings. Birds got wings. They're born with that. That's the way it's supposed to be. You can't get no person to fly. And they ain't got no wings when they're born. But that inventor kept saying, I think I can pull that off if I keep asking questions. Why is it I can't do it? And why is it that the bird can do it? Those are two questions.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody kept at it. Next thing you know, people out there lined up like they're going to be, like they are right this minute. What time's my flight leave? Now, all those people just a few years ago were saying, oh, ain't no such thing as no man getting on no bicycle and with wings and think he's going somewhere. But that's what some people started with. Put some wings on a bicycle. It didn't work, but they kept at it. And it'd be done. Next thing you know, somebody did it. I hope that answers the question.
All righty. Let's go to a new caller, Simone in Atlanta. Let's see if I can get you on here. Okay, Simone. Okay, there you are, Simone. Good morning, and welcome to the program. What's your question for Mr. Fuller?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, Simone.
Yes, I have a pretty simple question. Actually, I have several questions, but I don't want to put in waste too much time. But you often put in really simple terms, and I believe being counter-racist and anti-white supremacist is simple, and that's talking about usurping the white supremacist power structure with a system of justice that's perpetually counteracting the injustice and thus invalidating or neutralizing the white supremacist power over every aspect of black life. And personally, I think that black people are kind of comfortable in the idea of codification itself. And what I mean by that is black people are unaware of the sacrifices that they'll personally have to make. And right now are somewhat unwilling to move toward true codification and up in the unjust system that has held them in more recent generations physically and mentally captive. And this inability to be serious about anything is why the movement essentially is having trouble gaining traction amongst other brown people worldwide who suffer from the system as well. And just to say the horse leads the cart. So with all that being said, do you think that black people are able to be convinced that the glitzy realism, as in not real but realistic, you know what I'm saying, of the refinement stage is truly an integral part of their mental subjugation, and also that they'll actively combat that mental subjugation? Like, in simple terms, do you have faith that black people, if enlightened en masse, will naturally work toward continuing to be completely alive and aware of the white supremacist culture they indulge in and combat the misinformation with their actions and not just their words online and otherwise? And that's my question. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. So much was said there. I'm trying to get the question.
Yes. The question is, do you have faith or do you believe that black people, if they're enlightened, essentially, right now there's kind of what I would say just kind of a darkness.
Do I believe that black people will be what?
Once they are aware of the white supremacist system, essentially, once they're aware that there is a system, and if this happens en masse, essentially, that they'll naturally work toward continuing to be completely alive and aware of the culture that they indulge in, which is white supremacist, and combat the misinformation.
Wait a minute. I'm beginning to lose you because your question is stretched out.
Mm-hmm. Will they naturally combat that once they're aware of it? And that's all I was saying is that
once black people are aware of white supremacy,
yes. Will they naturally combat the white supremacy? Once they're aware of the system, will they naturally combat the system?
When people understand anything, people react to their understanding. So the answer is yes.
So
once black people really understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works in all 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Those are the 9 areas that cover just about everything that people are involved in. And black people recognize, which they will, that under white supremacy, all of these areas of activity are being engineered for black people by the white supremacists and against black people doing anything of constructive value that black person will. It's just by instinct, because it's self-protection. It's the need to want to be something, a being that is recognized as not being mistreated. Something that some person should not be mistreated, and that person is me. Once I recognize that I'm being mistreated, I will resent it and act on it. But black people, many black people say, no, white supremacy don't exist. Ain't nobody supreme over me. I come and go where I please. And then they'll start complaining about how everything is. How come I can't do this? How come I can't do that? How come it seems like I got such bad luck? It ain't bad luck, it's science. The science of racism. That's why you got this quote-unquote bad luck. No, it's being engineered. Where you go and what you do is being engineered by somebody other than you. But it's being done in such a way that you can't see it. That's all it is. That's all white supremacy is. They're geniuses at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So in answer to the question, yes, the reason that white supremacy exists now is because the average black person on the planet does not know that white supremacy exists.
Okay. Simone, it has a yikes under it. Thank you for your call. Do not be a stranger. And somebody in the chat room said, well, anyway, don't be a stranger. All righty. Mr. Fuller, we got about 12 minutes in this segment. I want you to take a couple of minutes and speak about your book, and maybe Simone can hear that. And then we'll go to Monica. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
Yes. The explanation for white supremacy is in the textbook for victims of white supremacy. And what you as an individual, if you're a person of color, a person classified as non-white, can do about it. The procedures to use, suggestions, in all 9 areas of activity. That's how the book is segmented. Economics is an area, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Things you can say, things you can do. And if a number of people, a great number, I don't know what the number would be, the tipping point, would say and do the things that are suggested in the textbook of victims of white supremacy that you can get by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. Then the problem will be solved, in my opinion. Me, Neely Fuller. Now, if it doesn't do that, if a quantum number of people do the things that are in the book, the system of white supremacy will continue as it is or in some other form. But if it does what the books are designed to replace, help a person to replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. Now, if the book doesn't help you as an individual to do that in a much easier manner that's been tried before, then the book has failed, and I have failed. And so far, the book has failed, and I have failed, because it needs a quantum number of people. Just one or two people, that's not a quantum number. Quantum means enough people. Put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
If you have enough people, like you're trying to move a rock, if you have enough people, individuals all around the rock, and each individual is just leaning against the rock, first one, then two, they don't even see each other. They might not even be talking to each other, anything. The rock is so big. But they just come and lean against it. Just turn their backs to it and just lean against it. And the more people who lean against it, according to logic, if they keep just leaning, first one person, then 1 million, then 10 million, at some point, that rock will start rolling. Rock rolling. It start rolling down the hill and come apart. For example, that's the way the United Independent System will work. You just have to have enough people who understand how the system works and take up a position of leaning and hope that somebody else leans. But if nobody else leans, you just lean anyway. Because what else are you going to do? Walk away from the rock? You're trying to move the rock. That's your assignment. So you stay there anyway. I might stay there forever and nothing happens and I just drop dead. And the rock still is there. Well, so what? That's your assignment anyway, because what else are you going to be doing? So you got to think about that. If you're not on your assignment, what else are you going to be doing? You're assigned to do something else like what? If you're black, you're supposed to be spending full time trying to get rid of racism. If you're doing anything else, you're wasting the time that your creator gave you. That's according to counter-racist logic. Because you didn't invent time. The time that you got was given to you. There's no record of you having invented time and energy. You can get the book by going to producejustice.com.
All righty, producejustice.com. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Let's go to Buffalo, and our good friend in Buffalo is Monica. Monica, you are on. Good morning.
Good day, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. I want to thank you guys for the program, Mr. Fuller, and everyone involved. October 6th was Mr. Fuller and Fannie Lou Hamer's birthday. So I just wanted to add that. Carol Nelson mentioned you, Mr. Fuller. I don't know if you were able to listen on your birthday, but it kind of made my day. My question is, can you speak on why the white supremacists, they study the reaction of black people, and then I feel like they also study how effective black people are in the 9 areas? Can you speak on that, Mr. Fuller? Why they do that? Do you feel that it's it can help improve or continue the system of racism and white supremacy?
If I understand the question, that's what my textbook is for. That the white supremacists spend full time practicing white supremacy. Why? Because it's a huge benefit. It produces the 3 things that all creatures want, including animals. And what are those 3 things? Fun, glory, and material comfort. The white people, not all white people, but the white people who thought of that, an idea, let's get fun and let's get glory and let's get material comfort out of classifying people by color. We've tried many other things in getting something out of people that we want for our comfort. So, and all people do this, try to get fun, glory, and material comfort. So it comes down to how do you go about getting it? Well, what's the easy way of getting it? And somebody thought of, well, it's something we haven't tried. We've tried royalism, communism, socialism, but it's always a whole lot of bickering and whatnot, a whole lot of back talk. And you got to sit down and have too many conferences. Let's try something we haven't tried before. By we, meaning the people of the planet. And they say, okay, well, what is it we haven't tried? Doing business on the basis of what color somebody is. What do you mean color? What color their skin is? How about that? Have you thought about that? No, I never thought about that. Who would think about that? What, what? That's like talking about who's got a big toe. What are you talking about? But somebody who was a genius said we might be able to pull it off. Just pick out people, say, and since we are white, because it was probably a white person that thought of the idea, say, we'll call ourselves white people, and we'll say everybody else who's not white is not white. And we'll say people who are not white are throwaway people. They're supposed to be, they're designed to be mistreated by people who are white. And we can get fun, and we can get glory, and we can get material comfort because they'll be providing it for us if we want them to, if we get dominion over them. What about that? It had to be that way, folks. I'm talking to the listeners now. That's how it had to have started. Somebody thought of the idea. Some one person or a committee of people, I don't know. But somebody thought of the idea. We wouldn't have it now. And it was the most powerful political and religious idea for motivating people ever thought up in the history of the world. According to what? Neely Fuller? According to the evidence. Anybody who examines it. And so they probably asked each other, kind of laughed at it in the beginning, and said, you think something like that will work? Doing all the world's business on the basis of the color of the skin? They say, well, we can see if it works. And you think people just be bowing down to you on account of you white? Yeah, we talk about it enough, get it going, catch everybody early. I mean, capture a bunch of people, who are dark skinned and teach them that's the way it's supposed to be, that's natural. And tell the people that we classify as white that's natural, that's the way it's supposed to be. We might can get it to work. Nothing else has worked very well without us fighting about it. But this is something that seems easier. We'll fight about this too, but it'll be easier. Be an easier fight. You catch everybody early enough. They say, well, we'll try it. So they did. Apparently they did. And boy, they had the white people who first started practicing white supremacy probably went behind the barn, you might say, and say, boy, that was easy. We were able to pull this off, and we got something going now that's really, man, all we got to do is just keep pumping the pedals. Let's keep rocking and rolling with this thing we'll call it racism. All right?
Yeah.
Like the rising sun.
Excuse me, Mr. Fuller. I've got to leave it there for this hour. We've got to close it out. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, callers. Thank you, everybody. I hated to cut him off there, but we're due to move over, transition. But thank you for listening, new callers and all. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for your listenership. If you have to go, hopefully you will return next week with more questions. For those of you that are going to stay, how about that? Don't go away, because we have one more hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, which will commence in about 5 seconds. Thank you for listening. All right. Good morning and welcome back to the second hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. Contact number for the show is 516-453-9921. And those of you who are regulars know, just press the number 1 button to get in line so that Mr. Fuller can address or answer your question and maybe listen to your comment. And if you do make a comment, please, ma'am, please, sir, please make it short so that Mr. Fuller can understand the question and give you an answer. And that goes as well as for you new callers. You can call in, and a special program has been set up just for you to call in so that you can be heard. You don't have to be scared. You don't have to be nervous. A suggestion by someone in the chat room said maybe write your question out and practice for under 2 minutes to ask your question so that you can get it out to cut down on confusion and so that Mr. Fuller can fully understand your question, and the listeners also. So you might want to do that. You can also access the show by my Gmail address, which is number 7, numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com. Now, I cannot tell you that it will be read today, but at a point in time it will be read, as some have this morning, and I'll let you know about that. And you can go to the chat room by going to blogtalkradio.com, and then you want to click on programs, and the Produce Justice show will come up. You click on that, and the chat room is available for you to join in, participate, get suggestions, join the conversation. It's all good. Really, it is. You'll learn something there. We're all supposed to be still learning. So you'll learn something there. Some things you will agree with, and some things you won't agree with. That's okay. It's all part of it. Important announcement, Mr. Fuller, on Thursday, which is the 13th of October, 2022. Mr. Fuller will be on the Carl Nelson show from 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. That's the Carl Nelson show, and you can access that just like you're doing now by going to ProduceJustice.com, and a link has been set up so that you can hear Mr. Fuller on the Carl Nelson show from 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. on Thursday. That is the 13th. I'm looking at this calendar here. Yeah, the 13th. So make sure you do that if you want to do that. And in regards to some of the comments on the chat room, listen, when you are trying to produce justice or just living, understand this. You are going to be under attack at all times. If you knew some of the things that happened to me even before this show began, particularly the last 2 weeks, I mean right up to it, the attack that's coming on or has been going or is ongoing, even while the show is going on, it'll make you, you just understand that, and you just deal with it. You just deal with it. You're being attacked right now, whether you know it or not, or whether you accept it or not. You are still you're being attacked, but you deal with it the best way you can, and that is having a code and following that code. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's enough of that. All right. Now let me get in here. Thank you, Monica, for your call that you called. She was the last caller, so thank you, Monica. And let me see if I can go back up here and get who's next in line. Looks like it's going to be Corey. And see if I can get you in there, Corey. Yeah, wait a minute. Make sure. Up, back down. Pardon me, as this technology. Okay. All right, Corey, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Good day, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. My question is, Mr. Fuller, could you explain a little further about the indirect domination by the white supremacist racists combined with the master contradiction is what seems to be making it very difficult for a lot of victims of racism to even recognize that they're victims.
Can I explain why the victims of racism? What's the question?
Can you explain how indirect domination by the white supremacists combined with the master contradiction makes it very difficult for some victims to even recognize that the system exists?
It's because the system of racism is conducted, for the most part, through the logic of and the principles of deception. The white supremacists know how to fool people. They sit down around the table and call it Thanksgiving. All right, just an example. And sit down here, Chief. Let me tell you all about how the world is run. You all been kind of isolated here. We travel. We what you call pale faces. All right. You know, we travel a lot. We know how things work. And in fact, those ships you see out there in the harbor, we know how to make big ships. You make little canoes and whatnot. You don't go very far. Well, Chief is thinking about that, and he says, well, we don't need to go very far. Go very far for what? People, come where I am. I mean, we got plenty of land, plenty of clean water. We got plenty of this and plenty of that. And that's how you wound up here. You didn't like where you were, so you made big ships. We don't need to make no big ships. I mean, we make a birch bark canoe, and we get where we want to go in no time flat, because we don't want to go no place. I mean, we're already at the place that everybody's trying to go to. We're already in what paradise on earth, as you call it. That's why you were here talking to me. That's what the chief says. So, what the white supremacist says, yeah, but you don't know. It's a lot of things you're missing out on. Missing out on like what? Well, for instance, just the things that we brought here, like muskets. You got bows and arrows. I mean, when you all have a dispute, you all do a job on each other with that. Well, we do more fighting than anybody. All your people put together. And that's why we make better fighting materials. And you don't know it, but in a little while we're going to be fighting you. We're fighting you now. In answer to the caller's questions, that's how the white supremacists operate. They tell you what they're doing right to your face, and then they show you. But since you don't know, hey, we believe in mistreating people, and we believe in destroying things. We like destruction. Even when we construct things, we like to tear up the things that we constructed. I mean, it's just our ways of doing things. We build coliseums. I mean, it's big buildings that you've never seen before. And what do we do in these coliseums? We do things to hurt people. Feed people to the lions. That's our history. We think it's what? Fun. Don't you like fun, Chief? And so the chief will say, well, something about that don't make sense. You know, you have fun killing people. I mean, for fun, we get mad and we kill people. We kill a lot of each other. But, I mean, we don't consider it like some type of sport. Say, well, Chief, let me educate you. With us, it's a sport, okay? It's entertainment. Now, just leave it alone and have another drink. And so the drink helps the deception. And so those people wound up, little by little, on what you call reservations, which is just prison camps. And the white supremacists make fun of that. make movies about it. Saddle up, boys, and let's go get them. Reenactments in answer to the question about why the white supremacists do this and how they do it. They do it mostly through deception, fooling you, saying things that are not true. That's how you got the term honest engine. See, these people, for the most part, they don't even know what a lie is. When they say something, they don't know what a lie is. We lie all the time. We have to. Back where we came from, I mean, we cheat, lie, steal all the time, round the clock, and it's fun. It's glory. It's material gain. But some of these people don't know what a lie is. Boy, we're going to take them to the cleaners. They think that everything that we say, just because we're saying it is true, because that's the way they do among each other. If it rained yesterday, they say it rained. But we'll just lie just for fun. We're not getting anything out of it other than just the fun of telling a good lie. That's what we white supremacists do. We're going to take these people to the cleaners.
Okay.
That's just
all right.
A long-winded explanation of how the white supremacists operate, but it worked.
It worked. Okay. Corey, thank you for your call. Let's go to Nicole. Nicole, get ready. You ready? Okay, wait a minute. See if I can get you in here. Okay, Nicole, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Fuller. Happy late birthday. I read a couple of books this week, and I was going to comment, but you kind of covered it all because one of the books about Kush and the different regions that, like the Red Sea and stuff like that. So it was kind of correlation of somebody's story taking away symbols and history from another culture or country and then locking it into the Bible or any other book or knowledge to create something to keep other people in the dark. So you kind of covered that. So I'm glad I was on today just to say acknowledge happy birthday and thank you for another year of your knowledge and for me to be able to continue logic, reason, and philosophy, the logic of it all and the reason why I was through that era to be able to produce justice as a Generation X because we're never lost. We might be in slow timing, but we're truly awakening to what's going on. So I hope in my grandchildren's generation that we actually able to see justice.
Well,
have a good day.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you very much. I would like to see it happen in the next 15 minutes.
Right.
Yes, because actually the system of white supremacy is put together according to a formula. And like in any scientific laboratory, once you know the formula, meaning the code, for anything, in making a car, in making a computer, most of us are now somewhat familiar with some of the operations of a computer. And computers weren't around forever in the form that they are in now. The brain is a computer where you use your brain as your basic computer and you figure things out, how to get things done in the most efficient manner. And once you do it, it's not a matter of something you're struggling with. It's just a matter of finding out how to make the buttons and then how to arrange the buttons in such a way that when you push the buttons, certain things happen. Everything works according to a code. The white supremacists do everything according to the white supremacist code. That's why it works. Now, you can come up with a counter code, which is what I've tried to do, the infancy part, the infantile part, the starting part, was the textbook for victims of white supremacy. For every system, you can come up with a counter system. Anything that people put together, people can take apart. It's just a matter of coming up with a code. If it's put together according to a code, and anything that's put together and keeps working is a code, the system of white supremacy is the most efficient religious and political code ever invented in the minds of people. So you just study it, see how it's put together, and then systematically take it apart. And once you figure out how it's put together, it might take you 100 years to take it apart, or it might take you 10 minutes. And as much as it can come down, you can take it apart much faster than it was put together. Because you really had to do a lot of thinking to put anything together, to invent anything. But somebody can come along, figure out how it's put together, and take it apart, something that was put together over a period of 50 years, like putting up a building. You can knock it down in 10 minutes. Now, we know that. We've seen examples of that. I don't care how long it's been standing there. That doesn't say it's going to take the same length of time to take it apart. You can take things apart much faster than you can put them together. That's a law of the universe. But we haven't even thought about that. And we always talk about, because the white supremacists has put it in our minds when it comes to black people. Or you put something together, then trying to take it apart, it's going to take a long, and that's how we even talk. It's going to be a long struggle. It's going to take a long time. I mean, it takes us a long time just to say long, because we've been trained that way. Mm-hmm. And that's how you train a slave. Everything is going to be a struggle. And we talk like that. You hear a lot of people. I mean, if you want to be a black leader, that's how you learn to talk. You got, according to the way the white supremacists want the black leaders to be. Even when they talk, they, ooh, it's going to be a struggle. The white supremacists say it's just going to be a struggle. But we'll have it done this afternoon. But black people say, oh, a long time, and then the next generation, and then the next generation. Back when I was about 10 or 12 years old, I came up with a codified expression for older black people in my age bracket. I call them next election Negroes. And I figured that out at about age 11. I think I was about 11 years old. I say, I'm tired of these next election Negroes. We just had an election today. And they coming back from the polls saying, now, when it comes to next election, I say they're sitting in the barbershop talking about the next election, and they just had an election. What they going to do with this one? But they're talking about the next one already, which means they have no confidence in the one they just had. And that has not changed.
Yes, sir. All right. Nicole, thank you. And thank you for those books and your comments. And happy birthday to Mr. Fuller. Thank you so much. Hey, listen, I was just informed that because of the volume of calls that are on the line presently, chances are looking that we may not be able to get to all of the callers. So we're going to make every effort to. So I was told to ask the people, if you tune in, no more callers, but you can certainly tune in. But this is what you can do. I know you wanted an answer this week, but if you don't get on this week, write it down, if you will, please, ma'am, please, sir. And you can ask that question next week. And if you do call in, your name is recorded on there, and you could, if you call in next week, this is if we don't get to you, then we can get to you next week, and you will be expedited right up there in line, so that you really don't exactly lose your place. We just can't get to you today because of the volume of time, our time limitations. But thank you for calling anyway, and be sure if we don't get to you that you write your question down, then ask it next week, and you'll be expedited right on up. Okay? Well, that's what I was told anyway, so do that. All right, Brooklyn, Tucson. Let me see if I can get you in. Okay, you're on.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning,
Fuller,
sir.
You were just, yes, Mr. Fuller, you were just doing a splendid job. We appreciate it. And the question that I had, Mr. Fuller, do you believe that black people can be successful within the system of white people? Well, no. First of all, do you believe black people can be successful without white people? And that's my only question. I'd have to stay on the line. Appreciate it, Mr. Bobby.
All right, sir.
Do I believe that black people can be successful without white people? I don't think so.
Yes.
I really don't think so. I think that white people are put here for a purpose, and black people are put here for a purpose, and all creatures and all things were put here for a purpose. Some older people used to say, and I remember it, God didn't make no junk. People make junk. But God, the creator of the universe, didn't make no junk at all. And so there are some people who say that, well, God didn't make white people. White people came from black people. So black people made white people. And that could be true. We've seen evidence where you can put people of color together and you will come up with a person of color. Or you can put two people of color together and they can come up with a white person. And that's been shown just by people witnessing that happening. So getting to the question, you might say, well, why are white people here? If they are not able to function in a way that you have justice in a world that has white people and black people and trees and water and alligators, can they be successful in harmony with one another? Well, there are some scholars, mostly Bible scholars, who say at one time, not all say this, but at one time it was that way. They said they had a place called Eden that was that way. But then some things kind of got out of hand on account of things started being done that shouldn't have been done. Now, that's all very argumentative even to this day. But in answer to the question, yes, I think that everything that is ever created by the Creator, including all the billions of stars out there, serve a purpose even though we may not know what that purpose is. But that people have a tendency to mess things up that are in their natural form don't get messed up. But when people start tampering with things, then one thing starts happening after another. When people do with things that they are provided, things that shouldn't be done.
Mm-hmm.
But the compensatory code says there's something built in the people that when people mess up things, they can straighten it out. That anything done by people, any errors made by people can be corrected by people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people say that they're saying, environment, it ain't no comeback. But whatever created the environment can make it come back. So if we believe that something created everything that we're looking at, whatever created that, whatever it is, a leaf on a tree, a drop of water, don't worry about it. It can be straightened out by whatever created it. That's logic.
Mm-hmm. All righty. All right, thank you to Sant. I'm working on you, Be Good One, and I'll get right back to you. Let's do this. You're listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., and we thank you for listening here. And if you'd like to get in contact in the remaining 32 minutes, you can by calling 516-453-9921. Press the number 1 button if you want to be heard. But we're not, I was told that you probably shouldn't do that right now because chances are you will not be heard today. But if you do that and you don't get on, write it down and for next week, and then you will be expedited right on up. You can also contact me by my Gmail, which is the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. And you can also go into the chat room and get in there. Oh, yes, you can. Go to blogtalkradio.com, click on where it says programs. The Produced Justice Show will come up. Hit that bad boy, and you are in the chat. And there's some interesting conversations going on in there. In fact, I'm chatting with Be Good One now, which I hope to finish after this. Let's see here. Important. On this coming Thursday, mark it down, 10/13/2022, Mr. Fuller will be on the Carl Nelson Show. And you can get that by going to ProduceJustice.com and clicking on the link for the Carl Nelson Show, and you can get in. You can hear it from 8 a.m. until 10. Oh, yeah, do that bad boy. And one more thing, if you're a new caller and you call that number, make sure you tell the call screener that you are a new caller, and you will be into a special program of expedition, and that'll take care of all that action. Okay, I think that's it. Yeah, Carl Nelson. Okay, don't forget to get the books by going to ProduceJustice.com. I understand the book sales are good, and that's good. All right, Ray, Dallas, you're in. Wait a minute, Ray. Okay, Ray, you're there.
Good morning, Mr. Fuller. I have 2 questions, if permitted, from your opening thoughts and expression. Mr. Fuller, does a man and a woman do their best to practice truth, balance, and correctness?
Can they?
Do they do their best to practice truth, balance, and correctness?
No, nobody does anything close to what they should be doing under the system of white supremacy. But it can be, but not under this system. See, that's why.
Okay.
Otherwise, why get rid of the system of white supremacy if everything is working the way that it ought to work, or even most things? But nothing between people is working the way that it ought to work, according to what standard? according to the standard of what in the textbook for victims of white supremacy I call universal man, universal woman. We don't have that nowhere on the planet. Why? The main reason is the system of white supremacy itself. People do not interact with each other nowhere close to the way people should interact with each other, according to the evidence and according to the code. I mean, in any area of activity. If you're talking about economics, oh no. The use of time and energy by the people on this planet, very destructive. Because that's what basic economics is, the use of time and energy. I mean, we build up, we use our time and energy doing very unhealthy things. Everything from food to how we talk to each other. Find the words in whatever language we have when the white supremacists get through with it to be insulting and call it a joke. Not say anything that's going to help inspire anybody to interact with every person that they see to do something constructive, but to always be thinking of some type of mischief, some type of mistreatment. We walk around fishing for something to say that's derogatory about somebody else. And we've been doing it for so long, we think this is normal. This is the way everything should be. We call it fun. The thing that everybody wants. Everybody wants to have fun. Squirrels like to have fun. You see them chasing each other and whatnot. They're not trying to hurt each other for the most part. They're just having fun. Going round and round the tree and jumping from limb to limb. Fun. But we have fun harming people. The white supremacists teach us this. Turn on the television and you can turn the sound off. And what are the people having fun doing? They call it adventures and thrillers and all this. But they're harming people. Buildings burning up. You see a person bursting out of a building on fire, and the person that set them on fire, handling the whole situation like it's fun. I burned up a whole bunch of people. And I made a movie about it, or they made a movie about me doing it. And it'll say, based on a true story, right there on the screen. And you flip the channel, and you see some people from the Earth on another planet, and they're chasing down somebody, trying to do them some harm, or that somebody's trying to chase them, some creatures that might look like something you've never seen before. Harm, 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 harm. You can run a planet like that, and that's how it's being run. We've never known it to be run any other way. And who are the people who run it that way better than anybody? The people who know the most, the people who are the most powerful people. And who are they? According to the evidence, white supremacists.
Okay.
The usual suspects.
All righty. All right. Ray, did you say you had another quick question?
Okay. Yes. How are the white supremacists? Yes. How are the white supremacists correctly regarded as men and women when their primary tactics are deception, harming, and mistreatment of others?
You say, how do the white supremacists do what?
Yes. How are they correctly regarded as men and women when their primary tactics are to deceive, harm, and mistreat others?
Oh, being a man, according to the code, or a woman, this means you're able to do things. Man is short for this manager. Woman is the womb of man, which means she's a manager too. So the white supremacists are the greatest managers in the world in recorded history. And they do it through a system of white supremacy. They are proven to be the greatest so far. But they're great at doing evil, along with producing things. The system of white supremacy is the most powerful system for producing things than any system of people ever produced since people were invented by the Creator. The white supremacists have taken on something called the system of white supremacy, and that system, when it comes to producing things, have been the wonders of the world when it comes to people producing things. So why get rid of it if it's such a great producer? Because it produces things and throws away people. That's why you get rid of it. People are more important than things. Things are supposed to serve people. But the white supremacists serve people with a whole bunch of things like 9mm pistols and AR-15s. And now we've gotten so crazy because the white supremacists produce craziness, insanity on a scale that's unparalleled, that now in places of learning, places of worship, any kind of place, things are more important than people because you go in there shooting. Place where you go buy groceries, hey, go in there and kill everybody. Kill everybody for what? Fun, glory, material comfort, one or the other, all three put together. Or, on the outside, just do it to pass time. Whether you, and all people, white, non-white, just destroy people. Like you're mad at the Creator, which is exactly what that is. The white supremacists have gotten so arrogant and taught black people how to kill each other on a huge scale, teach white people how to kill each other and black people, and just make movies and write books endless. The top 10 people for making movies, the people who are going to get the greatest salaries, are not Mr. Rogers types. They're people who are going to break things and then break people, break their skulls, kill their hearts, stop their organs from functioning, stack up the bodies. They have so-called things called wars, and they glorify them. And when it's not one going on a grand scale that they can put that label on it and call it a war, they'll have reenactments of wars that are already supposed to be over. Well, we're going to act like we still haven't won. Why? Because it's fun. In wars, you do what? Break things. Break things that you make or other people make. And the main thing you do is kill people. Kill what the Creator put here. Now you're taking on the Creator. You're showing the Creator a thing or two. Because the Creator kills, so I'm going to be better than the Creator at killing. That's the white supremacist mind. That's why we have the kind of world that we have right now. And it needs to stop. and be replaced by universal man, universal woman in harmony in every area of activity, 24/7, planet-wide, and when we go in outer space, there too.
There too. Okay. All right. Thank you, Ray. Leona in the Midwest. Let me see if I can get you in here. Get ready, Leona. Okay. Go ahead, Leona.
Good morning. Peaceful greetings, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby. Mr. Fuller, two things right quick, sir. One, I thank the Creator for you, and happy anniversary for your 93rd birthday week. Now, in the revised edition book, excuse me, page 60 and 61, you talk about the four things people should be doing with their time and energy. In fact, back on March 30th, 2021, I made a note. You said this is the heart of the code. One.
Absolutely. I just want, excuse me for jumping in, but I miss doing that. I should do that, what you're doing right now, on every program. Because I always tell people, because people are always telling me, sometimes they're confused by some of the things I'm saying and all like that. And I'm supposed to be telling people, if you get lost, there's several pages you can go to. But page 91 in the revised expanded edition, just like you're saying now, it's all there in just four short things.
Actually,
four
sir,
things you're
60,
supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be doing one of those things at all times so you can't get lost.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. For the record, it's page 60, Mr. Fuller. And you say one, we should be producing, building, repairing, improving, and or cleaning those things that have a constructive value and using them for constructive purposes only. Or two, studying, writing, asking questions, and or exchanging views with others about all the aspects of how to eliminate racism, how to produce justice in all areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor law, politics, religion, sex, war, and counter-war. Or three, eating and sleeping correctly and only as necessary. Four, engaging in sexual intercourse no more than 2 times every 7 days and using a minimum amount of time and resources in association with such engagements. Now, you also say, and here's where my questions are coming, you also say victims of racism would no longer, with relative ease, be sidetracked into and or burdened with activities that are, at best, useless rituals and or destructive fads. And then you say, a little bit later here, you say the maintenance and refinement of racism depends greatly on the ability of the racist white supremacists to keep their victims constantly engaged in a variety of activities that are wasteful of time and energy and or that are in other ways directly supportive of the continuation of racism. Now my question here today in 2022, what do you see as some of the most destructive fads happening and the most wasteful time of energy that some of us may be getting caught up in? And just for the record, just 10 years ago, I stopped being a next election Negro. Yeah, because that was in some ways a waste of time. But my question, sir, is do you want to add anything to that? Do you see anything pressing right now about destructive fads here in 2022 that we should be on the alert for?
That's why I call page 60, which is the first page on the economics. That comes on the economics.
Yes, sir.
If a person gets lost about anything that Neely Fuller say about anything, go to page 60 of the textbook, 2016 edition of the textbook for victims of white supremacy, and look at the 4 things that a non-white person is supposed to be using their time and energy for. And if you are not using your time and energy for one of those 4 things, you are wasting the time that your Creator gave you, according to what? Neely Fuller, no, according to counter-racist logic. If you talk about getting rid of racism, every non-white person on the planet can, if you want to go right to it, the core of everything that's written in the textbooks, including the word guide and everything else, go to page 60 of the 2016 edition. Now, page 71 and 171 and 172 is another place you can go to as far as what questions to ask when you're interacting with other people. When you start having arguments and you want to get out of the argument thing, you can go to that. But when you want just an overview of the entire code, and you getting confused, and you begin to don't know, well, what am I supposed to be doing in this situation? And what would Neely Fuller say about this? According to logic, according to what he's picked up from logic, cause and effect. Because that's where I get my stuff from logic. It's mathematics. 1 and 1 is 2 for everybody. It ain't Neely Fuller. It's just that 1 and 1 is 2. Neely Fuller just repeats it, that's all. It's in the universe. These are laws of the universe. So if you get lost, Neely Fuller puts the laws of the universe in the form of, which is math, cause and effect, in a word form, kind of cumbersome, but it's there. Let's go to page 60 of economics, the use of time and energy. When you come into the world, you come in here with two things, time and energy. And when you leave here because of the loss, which that's around the corner for me, of time and the loss of energy. Now, I can see my time and energy. I can feel it. I'm looking at me, and I can see that energy I'm looking at me moving and whatnot. I used to be able to do a whole bunch of things, jump up and turn around in midair and all this kind of stuff. I can't do none of that now. That's the energy being lost. So, page 60 says how you use your time and energy while you're here to the best of your ability. And it's just 4 things. It's not a long, drawn-out thing. And you can't get lost. Mm-hmm. Just ask yourself, am I doing one of these things right now? Now, I'm doing what? Let's take right now. Neely Fuller is doing number 2. Now, I don't even remember what number 2 is, but I remember that when I'm doing number 2, specifically, and I think it has to do with talking, exchanging views with others about ways and means of ridding the world of racism and or doing anything of constructive value. Anything time a black person is doing anything of constructive value, you are undermining the system of white supremacy. Because a person of color, a black person, under the system of white supremacy is never, ever supposed to do anything that makes sense without some white person standing over them, making them do it, or seeing to it that they do it in behalf of the system of white supremacy. And a black person going off for 5 minutes on their own and doing anything of constructive value, it's not supposed to happen ever in the system of white supremacy. And any black person who does that, just do anything that's constructive, anything that's going to produce a constructive result. Because people ask, well, what do you do, Fuller? Just do something constructive. You are hurting the white supremacists like they've never been hurt before. Because being black, you're not supposed to ever do or say anything to anybody that makes sense unless it's going to be helpful to the white supremacists. But just doing it off on your own, without a white person making you do it, or expecting you to do it, or seeing to it that you're doing what you, because they taught you how to do it in behalf of the system of white supremacy. It's not supposed to happen. That's why black people, when they are alone, they don't know what to do. So we do most of the things that we choose to do are non-constructive, have non-constructive results. Well, let's get together all through the book. The textbook for victims of white supremacy say when black people get together in the system of white supremacy, and it's not for the purpose of doing something specific that's going to proven to have been of constructive value, it's going to most likely be something non-constructive, and it's going to end ugly. That's when black people, that's why we know, we almost feel it. I mean, the bigger the crowd of black people gets, hey, at a certain point, it's time to leave. It's time to leave. Why? Well, hey, something that shouldn't happen is going to happen. Because we are people who make things happen that shouldn't happen, with the intention of doing that. But if you ask us, did we have that intention? No. No, somebody started some stuff with me. No. We have been programmed to be toxic people. So that the white supremacists say, hey, we have created monsters and monstrosities. And we made them that way. And they are so far gone, they got no idea that they are that way. Be right in the middle of bragging about Black Lives Matter, and at the same time, in the back of their minds, trying to figure out how they can do something to harm each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way we really are. They're not lying about that. But they made us that way.
All righty. All right, thank you, Leona. Joy, Minnesota Joy. Okay. You're on. Okay, couldn't get you in? Okay. KQ, wait a minute, see if I can get you in here quickly. Yeah, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Greetings, can I be heard? Oh, I'm sure I can be heard.
You're on.
Greetings.
You're on. Go ahead. You only got a few minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Bauer. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. Happy birthday, Mr. Fuller. My question was regarding VGQ. I have heard you many times, Mr. Fuller, speak about VGQ. You often say that VGQ is intended to prevent an argument. My question is, should VGQ be used to avoid being asked questions or attempting to follow the logic? For example, if somebody makes a statement and I ask a question about that statement and the individual says VGQ, was that what you intended, or is that the appropriate use for VGQ?
Well, you can ask questions about anything, yes. See, that's just it. The whole idea is to prevent arguments between one person of color and another. Argument about anything. In other words, just listen to what the person says, and the codified response is supposed to be, well, he said what he said. And it doesn't make any difference whether it was a question or a statement. Question, statement, or the answer to a question. Just have another question ready if you have another question ready. If you want something else answered, to stay in the question lane. The best way to have a conversation is through questions and answers. And don't argue about the answers. Just have another question. That's the key. Once you start arguing about the answers, then the conversation has stopped and the argument has begun. And according to the code, people of color are never, ever supposed to have an argument with anybody about anything. You have a conversation. And remember, how is a conversation made? Questions and answers.
Mm-hmm.
If a person sounds like they're starting an argument, you go into the question mode and stay there. You don't do nothing but ask questions. That's the key.
So we should attempt to not...
Hello?
Yeah, can I be heard?
Go ahead.
So we should attempt to have conversations but avoid arguments. Is that correct?
And listen again, I'm going to say it. And the way to do that, ask questions instead of making statements. You know the difference between a question and a statement?
Yes.
Okay. Well, ask questions. And then when the person answers your question, don't make a statement about the answer. Ask a question about the answer. And just keep doing that. Stay in the question lane, like driving a car or riding a bicycle. Stay in your lane. And the lane is question, answer, question, answer. And it's guaranteed, according to logic, not according to Fuller, according to logic, it will take everybody, that conversation will take everybody right where they should be. If you don't believe it, try it.
Okay.
It won't take everybody where they want to be, but it'll take everybody where they should be. That's guaranteed. If you don't believe it, try it. Just stay in the question lane.
All righty. Well, I'll tell you what. Thank you, Kwaku. Listen, John in Houston, Andrew in KC, Dre in Oklahoma, and it looks like Monica again in Buffalo. Got you down here, so if you call next week, because we have more questions than we have time that has been allotted, call in next week, and you four will be expedited right on top. That's John in Houston, Andrew in KC, Dre in Oklahoma, and I guess Monica again in Buffalo if I pushed the button right. Okay, do that. We've just about come to the end of the show. Justice Warrior asked you, Mr. Fuller, did he have permission to use next election Negro? He seems to, she seems to like that, so we'll go on with that. But
no, the code says no.
The code says no? Oh,
the code says, see, that was something I did when I was 11 years old. I wasn't thinking about no code doing that.
Uh-huh.
I started working on the code when I was 26.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, anyway, we are at the end of the show, so we want to thank you for your calls and your listenership. If I didn't get to you, hopefully we can do a better job next week. So make sure that you tune in. Don't forget, Fuller will be on with Carl Nelson on this Thursday from 8 until 10 a.m., 8 a.m. until 10 a.m., and you can get the link here at producejustice.com, as well as all the books. Go to producejustice.com. Again, producejustice.com. Final word, Mr. Fuller.
That's it. Producejustice.com. Go to the textbook.
All right. We'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Bye.
Thank you. Thank everybody, all the callers.